This is a huge problem, and the United States, well, it's not equipped well enough to be able to fix it. It's no secret that we continue to receive threats and warnings from the likes of China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and many other countries that don't necessarily like our leadership or our country as a whole. Experts believe that this problem wasn't foreseen. In fact, some claim that it was one that was created in just a short amount of time. Now, I'm going to be talking about some other problems that seem to be the result of initial issues that we've already had so far and how it's going to affect millions upon millions of Americans across the country.
This large SUV crashed and erupted into a ball of flames in Rochester early yesterday morning. And investigators now tell ABC News the driver is from nearby Syracuse and went to the Syracuse airport before the crash to rent that large Ford Expedition SUV. Police say the Ford collided with a smaller SUV around 1 a.m. outside the Kodak Center, where 1,000 people were coming out of a concert.
The force of the collision caused the two vehicles to go through a group of pedestrians that were in the crosswalk and then into two other vehicles.
2 people in the smaller SUV were killed. The driver of the Ford was hospitalized with life-threatening injuries.
You saw the carnage of the cars and the one car burnt up and car pieces everywhere, and smell of gasoline was just so intense. I couldn't believe how strong it was.
Here's the big mystery surrounding the crash. According to police, first responders found at least a dozen gasoline canisters inside the Ford. It's unclear why the driver was transporting so much gas.
Now, I'm not really sure how much gas that Ford uses, but yeah, it's extremely sketchy that it had canisters of gas ready to go in the back. The fear here is that this could be part of the possible attacks that the FBI has been telling us about. Y'all remember those, right? Now, of course, it could also be an accident, a horrific one at that, one that all of us wish did not happen. However, we are seeing these threats being made towards state capitals, threats that are now becoming more and more of a trend. The question is, are you at all concerned about any of these possible attacks happening here in our own country? Comment a quick yes or no on that one, and while you're at it, hit the like button for the video. I really appreciate that, and don't forget to share this video with everyone that you know and care about. By the way, if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the description down below this video. Now, the warnings that we've received from the FBI, they seem to be becoming that much clearer, and I think that we're now seeing those blinking lights coming closer and closer. Remember when multiple state capitals were either on lockdown or evacuations due to bomb threats? Well, as it turns out, more of them received the same threats, with some receiving them days in a row.
With political stakes and tension so high, authorities today had to take the threat seriously. A bomb threat called into at least a dozen state houses across the country, sending law enforcement officials sweeping for explosives that they did not find. People were running from state capitals in Montana, Kentucky, Michigan, Georgia, and others. Federal investigators tonight say that the email that triggered it all came from outside the country. The note sent to lawmakers was just a few sentences saying that the explosives were well hidden and that people would end up dead.
I'm not even sure what would motivate somebody to do something like that could potentially result in loss of life.
Like I said, some areas are receiving threats a second day in a row, and while no bombs have been found, it's still unnerving that we're seeing all these threats at all. And I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but they now have a potential lead saying that emails came from outside the country. And y'all know we have to talk about it. What's saying that these emails weren't sent through, I don't know, a VPN? Because there are ways to change your locations on the World Wide Web, but I'm guessing that they already know that, right? Now, all of this is happening as tensions between the US and Iran continue to heat up, something that the White House has said that they've been trying to avoid, as they really don't want the conflict in the Middle East to spread any further.
In the wake of the attacks in Israel, border officials say they've seen a growing number of people on the FBI terrorist watch list trying to enter the country through the southern border.
CBS 8's Rocio De La Fe has the details.
Border Patrol officials say that between October of last year and September 30th of this year, 151 migrants with positive terrorism watch list matches were arrested after crossing into the U.S. illegally along the southern border.
The number of known or suspected terrorists, or anyone connected to one, entering the country illegally through the southern border is at an all-time high. That's according to government data from U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
We ought to be concerned about the high number of migrants who carry with them the intention of doing harm to us.
The figures show that in fiscal year 2023, CBP arrested a total of 154 non-citizens on the government's terrorist screening watch list. 151 of those individuals were arrested along the southern border. The numbers are up from 98 in the last fiscal year. The numbers represent a small fraction of all migrants processed at ports of entry.
But this kind of reminded me of something that the former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said late last year, if you guys remember that. So McCarthy, he warned that there might be terrorist sleeper cells hiding within our country, just waiting for the signal and the right time to take action.
I'm concerned about a cell sitting inside America today. We just caught 18 people just last month on the FBI terrorist watch list coming across our border. More than 160 have done it this year, a record breaking. When we're looking around the Middle East and the uprisings popping up around Europe and others, they could be sleeper cells right now in America, but this administration has done nothing to change what's happening on the southern border.
Within the same period, other lawmakers also warned about the same probability. So here's what Senator Tim Scott had to say about it.
I believe that we have sleeper terrorist cells in America. Thousands of people have come from Yemen, Iran, Syria, and Iraq. If we are going to deal with the national security emergency at our border, we have to do it now.
How do you guys feel about that? I understand that there are people who truly need help, and asylum is pretty much, it's apparent that other countries, those that don't like us, they're taking advantage of the gateway to the United States. One that lawmakers argue continue to be way too open at this time like this. And to add to the fact that we also continue to be at odds with Iranian-backed Houthis in the Red Sea, and well, we pretty much got our work cut out for us. So the White House, though, they've been sending a warning to them. One that seems to be an ultimatum as more countries are pitching in to try and keep the Red Sea safe for global trade.
As the president has made clear, the United States does not seek conflict with any nation or actor in the Middle East, nor do we want to see the war between Israel and Hamas widen in the region. But neither will we shrink from the task of defending ourselves, our interests, our partners, or the free flow of international commerce. That's why earlier today we released a joint statement alongside 11 countries condemning Houthi attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea, one of the world's most critical waterways, and reiterating that these attacks must cease immediately. And just after we released that statement, Singapore came on board. So now there's 13 nations that have signed up to that statement. As we've made clear, these actions directly threaten freedom of navigation and global trade, and they put innocent lives at risk. This joint statement demonstrates the resolve of global partners against these unlawful attacks and underlines our commitment to holding malign actors accountable for their actions.
So that might not help out in the Red Sea, but what are they going to do when these bomb threats become worse here at home? What if, and this is an idea that I don't ever want to happen, but we need to talk about it. So what if at least one of them turned out to be true? What happens next? I'm curious to see how the federal government will react if that happens here in the country. What do you guys think? Make sure you share your thoughts down below. And before I go, I want to thank you guys for being here. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.